Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. The hit musical Come From Away, which is about to celebrate its 5th anniversary, is back on Broadway, wowing audiences at the Show and Tell Theater. And my guests are two of the show's stars. Please say hello to Petrina Bromley and Astrid Van Wieren. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
Okay, 5th
Good morning,
anniversary.
Richard.
How exciting is this? Anybody can start.
It's kind of phenomenal that we've this little show that started in La Jolla that we had so much love for and didn't know has been embraced globally, and that we've had this great run on Broadway that we continue to have and will hopefully continue to have for many more years is just an absolute thrill.
Petrina, for you.
It's surreal on so many levels, partially because, the pandemic is in there as well. And so we've started and continued and then come away and come back. And it does feel like we've spent a lifetime with the show in a lot of ways, in a great way, because we're such a little family. And I'm so excited and so delighted that people are still wanting to come hear this story and still taking away from it such joy and such faith in humanity. I keep saying I'm here as long as my knees let me jump out of that hatch twice a show, 8 times a week.
You're going to be there for a long time. Now, listen, you had mentioned the pandemic. Have either of you been able to put the past 2 years and so into some kind of perspective?
Well, I think I was saying to you earlier, Richard, just before we came online, is that it's sort of like origami time. It folds in on itself. So I couldn't tell you if something was, during the pandemic, if it was 7 days ago or 7 weeks ago, and just trying to keep, creativity and connections with family and with the cast alive. That was sort of the main focus. And I don't know if I've completely put it in perspective, but it certainly makes our show feel as relevant, if not more relevant than it ever has. This whole idea of we need to come together to kind of look out for each other. And I love that about our show, that it constantly remains so of the time.
Good. Petrina, for you.
I think for me, I still can't believe it's not 2020. Like having to write 2022 anywhere makes my brain go, what? Wait, what?
Yeah, I had to reduce
so
rent checks.
I don't know that
Yeah.
I've absolutely. But it does, like Astrid said, it does feel like the story is as relevant as it ever was. And in some ways even more so, because I think people appreciate community so much more now, or hopefully we do, because we have spent so much time not being able to commune. I say this a fair bit. I apologize if I've said it to you before, Richard, but there's so few places that we collectively come together in society. If you're in school, you have school. If you're a churchgoer, you have church. If you're a sports fan, you have sports. And for us, it's theater, and that's where we come together in large groups of people. Performance in general, if you're the opera or the symphony or a concert, stand-up comedy, anything where you're an audience member is one of the few places where you can sit in a room full of people you don't know and have a collective experience. We are all there to enjoy it. You're all there to see what's happening, to watch and take in the show. And I think we've missed that. Because there is something about laughing in a room full of people that is not the same as slightly chuckling to yourself as you watch a screen. Just
Absolutely.
Knowing that you're all having the same experience at once, I think is so special. And I think people are aching for it.
How magical was that first performance back when you knew you were going to reopen again, that first performance back with a live audience? I mean, because your show is a heart show. And
Richard, you can't, it's something you can't completely put into words. It's just like, you feel like you're wandering around and you don't know what your purpose is. And then suddenly you know your purpose again. And to have that dialogue with the audience, to have them there with us, laughing, crying, feeling the emotions with us. That first moment when they wouldn't sort of let us move forward. And our show is, as you know, Richard, you've seen it, it always moves forward. There's very few applause breaks. We just keep going, just like the people in Gander had to keep going, and the Come From Aways had to sort of keep going through their experience. But they refused to let us move forward until they let us know that they were so thrilled we were back. It was amazing, amazing.
Yeah, Petrina. First of all, we heard your brand new puppy dog. Tell us about that before I get your answer.
So sorry.
No, we love that.
I just muted the mic. I heard her start going. When the neighbors come and go with their dog, she lets them know that she lives here too. So that's Scrunchin. She's a little sweet little trout, rescue dog that I got for myself because I was tired of being alone. I'm a crazy dog lady now. I have 2 others that are back home in Canada with my husband. But I turned around after 3 or 4 months here, and she's going to make an appearance now. She heard me say her name.
Oh, bring her up.
There's Scrunchy.
Oh.
And Petrina, tell Richard what a scrunchin is, because I love her name and what it means. Hi, Betty. And I have
so
somebody
it's
at
a
my door.
Newfoundland term, and it means. Oh, there you go. There's life. It's when you fry your cod tongues, you want a little bit of grease to fry them in. So back home we use fatback pork, like little bits of fatback pork. And those little bits, when you fry them up, they turn sort of golden brown, and you eat those along with the cod tongues. Those are called scrunchions. So she's a little bit of golden yumminess.
She's beautiful. Oh my gosh. When did you get her?
Sorry, somebody keeps knocking at my door. I'm gonna.
Oh, it's okay. Do you want to get the door?
Yeah,
January,
sorry.
about a month ago.
Oh my gosh, and she was a rescue. I love this. And she must love being in your home now, right? She's got a new mommy, right?
She is flourishing. She really is. Her before picture is sad and tragic, and now she's just the queen of the roost here, and it's awesome.
See, this is what I love about rescues. I know so many people who have done the same thing. And, they've given these beautiful animals that might have been put down or weren't able to find a home. I mean, look at her. She's just sitting there like the proud little girl. She's got a new mommy. She's got a beautiful new home. I think that is absolutely beautiful. She's a show dog, too. That is definitely a show dog.
She's very photogenic, and she's aware.
Have you been able to bring her to the
but
theater?
She's a total lap creature. She just wants to sit next to me. She was there once. The first day I got her, it was in between shows. So I did a matinee, went and got her, came to the theater and did the evening show. And she was the belle of the ball at the theater. Everybody was delighted to see her.
So it's like, oh my gosh, this is what my mommy does. My mommy's a theater actress. This is what she does. I think that's really fabulous.
She's super cute. My cat will not be making an appearance because cats are kind of, they do their own thing.
You never know. They may come in. So, Petrina, that first performance back, what was that like for you? How magical? Like you're sitting there getting ready to begin, and the roar of this crowd comes, and it just overwhelms you and sweeps over you. What was that like for you? That first performance back at Come From Away.
Mine was a little different than Astrid. I actually came back a little later because I was filming a TV show back in Canada called Son of a Critch. I'll put a little plug in for Son of a Critch. It's a sweet little story.
She's awesome in it. I'll put a little plug in for
Petrina.
Petrina.
Newfoundland. And so I didn't come back till October. And I mean, it was only about 2 weeks later. But the audiences were still so incredibly appreciative, and it was still that energy of renewal that everybody was feeling. It was like spring in the forest. Like everything just felt like, okay, we are awake again. We're out of our hibernation. We're back. Things are happening. And it was completely incredible. I think the biggest one for me was when we shot the Apple TV version of our show. Was the first time we were able to have an audience at all. And coming out to just because there's a feeling in a room that's full of people that's different than a room that isn't full of people. Even like you walk into any room and your body knows if there are other people there. It just does. And for us, coming into the theater and rehearsing and it's empty, and then coming in and having it full of people, the room feels entirely different. So you react to it differently. And I think that was the big one for me, was coming and doing the show in a little tiny hotel conference room with a big pole in the middle of it, doing that, which was exciting and wonderful because we were so happy to be together again. But then transferring that to the stage with an audience was unbelievable. It was really like, I don't know, rebirth or something. It was incredible.
Because there really is something about the audience being there and them needing to hear the story that pulls it out of you in a way that is impossible to describe or to do when there isn't someone there. Like people who work with green screen and stuff like that, they have my awe, but they also have my pity a bit, because there is nothing like having that communication with a live audience, that breath, that air that's just charged with electricity. It's something different.
You know, I want to get into the film version. I was so happy when I heard that was going to be done, and it was done in such a safe way. So rehearsals, you were like watching everybody on little screens like this for rehearsals?
No, we got to rehearse it. We were quarantined all together. We had our own bubble. We even have T-shirts that say something like "I survived the bubble." Remember that? We got on our last day, and we rehearsed in a hotel room, like a hotel conference room, as P said, with this big pillar in it. And that was how we began. We got to see each other, but then we couldn't spend time with each other. We had to go back to our rooms, and it was all very regimented in a sense, but the freedom to just like be there and sing these beautiful tunes again and tell the jokes and remember how fun it is to be inside that show.
Theater people are so resilient. I mean, what survived everybody during this pandemic were performers and artists and creatives. I mean, you know, it's interesting though. We all either watched, you know, I got lost in a YouTube world of watching old like musical theater clips and watching the Hollywood Palace and watching dramas and watching all this stuff, watching, you know, live theater, but on film. But everybody got on to StreamYard or to Zoom, and everybody did what they did, you know, and, you know, did benefits and, you know, just to raise money for the Actors Fund, or just, you know, to put their craft out there, because this is what you all do. You know, I mean, it must have been so great for, you know, during the shutdown, like what kept you both together? Like what kept you, you know, creatively together? Like what kept that all going before you knew that you were going to film it? Astrid, I'll start with you.
Well, I did a couple little fundraisers online for the Canadian Actors Fund, and tried to work on a new sort of a sequel to a musical I co-wrote years and years ago. We're doing kind of a sequel, and we actually just got some assistance to go to Banff Center of the Arts and spend a week working on that. So that's sort of, I wrote a new song, the first new song I ever wrote in like 20 years, and I'm pretty happy with it. So that's kind of fun. And so things like that, and just friendship maintenance, as I call it, like staying in touch or picking up again with people that I really love, because, you know, this craft and getting to do all this is great, but there's something about having people in your life. Like I'm so grateful for this show, not only for the creativity, but the cast that we have and the friendships that I've made, including that one. I know I'm probably not pointing at her, depending on where we are, but
you are.
Oh, good. Well, that's fantastic. And yeah, so doing things like that. And I'll pass it off to Petrina, because I know that she did some writing and stuff too. And I got to see something she wrote, and it was fantastic. It really was.
I had an embarrassment of riches during the pandemic. I'm almost embarrassed to say, but I went home to Newfoundland, and because it's an island and a small population, dog barking, we were able to shut things down pretty tightly. So I did a few workshops. I wrote a piece that was filmed for a local theater company, a one-woman show, and then that was broadcast in February of last year, well, a year ago now. And I had a day on a TV show, and then I got this part in this other TV show. I did a concert tour with a pianist around the province. Like it was embarrassing, really. Like I just had this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday. I was like, I can't believe all the things that I actually did during the pandemic, when I know so many people who were completely not allowed out of their homes, for heaven's sake. Like
we were pretty shut down in Toronto.
I was very fortunate.
Yeah. I want to talk about being back in the rehearsal room again for Come From Away. I mean, because we had been away from that for such a long period of time. So what was it like reuniting for that first time? I know, Petrina, you came into the show, you know, 2 weeks after they opened again on Broadway. But Astrid, I'll start with you. Like being back, going back into that room again, being together with this cast.
It was absolutely fantastic. I mean, I could just go through each person and tell you how exciting it was to see them, because it does feel like family. Joel Hatch, our mayor, who's so fantastic. He had sort of weekly Zooms during the pandemic, so that sort of helped us all stay connected, and people could jump on or not. And we had James Soul, our new cast member, who was just so fabulous to meet, and he was fantastic and working hard and folding in. And Rachel was coming back from having only been with us very briefly before the pandemic, and then being scooped back in. But I'm trying to remember where we were as far as the rehearsal hall, but it overlooked sort of a pizza joint, and just every break was about catching up. And we also had the tour company was there rehearsing to go out. So, and they were rehearsing for the fantastic thing that some of our standbys were in for the Washington Memorial, which was just breathtaking. And we got to watch them before they went off. So there was a lot of support and love for each other. It was pretty extraordinary.
I love it. Petrina, did you go back into rehearsal, or since you knew the show, you just went right back into the show?
No, I had that rehearsal too, and I got to rehearse with the standbys in a couple of different locations as well. I did a little, just me, like rehearsing musically and stuff like that, just me and Wendy Cavett, our musical director. And then I had a put-in with everybody the afternoon before I went in, and that was
a riot.
It was ridiculous because we did like, I mean, the show is in my body at this point in time, right? So we did the few chair moves that are the real big, everybody moves something right now thing that those transitions we always run before we run a put-in. And we did those, and I was kind of like, I think we could just go home now. Like, the rest of it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But we did
fun,
it,
though, because it was a little
fun.
loose.
And I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, it was great.
There's a lot of chair moving in
Yeah,
your show. I think that's like, people say they have fight calls or whatever else at the theater. You have your chair call, right? Come from away.
Yeah, we're pretty solid on it now, but definitely before we do put-ins or brush ups, we always look at those because they're quick. Some of them are really quick.
I love it. Okay, being back in your dressing rooms for the first time, like walking in there that first time, like what went through your minds?
Well, the first time was actually with the Apple TV. We got to go up to our dressing room, and it strangely looked like a kind of memorial to another time. All the different cards tucked in and pictures here and there. And I tend to have things pretty ungapuchki. Petrina does too. We like to have people give us things, and we have cards or little stickers or things that just, a beer label from Come From Away beer, like stuck in the corner, and a picture of me and Beulah. And it all was a bit dusty. And I mean, they cleaned it, but it still had that patina, we shall call it. And it felt like a memorial to another time. It kind of it pricked the heart of like how much time had passed. But also it was nice to see some familiar tchotchkes.
Sure. Petrina, for you.
It was like you opened a time capsule to another space and time. And it was kind of startling how clearly we had just left. Like, the makeup was still sitting where it usually is. I mean, I threw it out, but the makeup was still sitting where I had laid it because I was going to be putting it on the next night. You know what I mean? Like, everything was literally, and they intentionally had left the call board with the calls that were there for that week so that we could, be reminded of where we had been 2 years, year and 2 years. I don't, what is time? Who knows? Whenever it was that we left. So yeah, it was like walking into the past briefly.
It's great because everybody I've spoken to said, Richard, some people had like plants, some were still alive, but it was very, very bizarre. I mean, some people had like food or just strange things. And Rob McClure had just bought his daughter some like clothes. And then when he went back to the dressing room, she's 2 years older now. So he said they're all got their tags on them and everything else, but she had totally outgrown them. So it's like,
Wow.
It's like you find all this stuff and you realize, oh my gosh, this was 2 years ago.
Yeah, there was still some stuff because I was actually in Buenos Aires and I was on vacation and had to get back. And there was, the Happy was going on for Beulah at the time. And so some of her things were still there. So it was so wild.
Okay, you both made
So a
your
little bit
Broadway.
like going back to your childhood home and walking into your bedroom and your mom has left everything the same.
Yeah. Oh,
Exactly.
totally. It's like you go home for a visit, like your mom hasn't changed your room since you left at 18, right? Love that. Okay, you both made your Broadway debuts in Come From Away. I remember that's one of my favorite opening nights of all time. Again, it was a freezing day in New York. All the people from Newfoundland, everybody was there from Gander. I mean, in these ball gowns. I mean, and they were probably freezing. They didn't care. I mean, I remember everything about that night. What do you all remember about your Broadway debut, that opening night of Come From Away?
Well, I remember feeling wonderfully confident because I knew our show was in such great shape because we'd taken it, and especially for, they kept us all, which was so like from La Jolla to
Yeah.
Seattle and all that coming to Broadway. And I just remember this bubbling sort of excitement. And the best moment for me was when everybody from Gander and the surrounding town, like Durham from, where's Durham from again? Petrina, I just had a senior moment.
Appleton.
Appleton, right? Appleton. And so everybody was there with their doppelgangers, and we got to bow together. And I think that was my favorite moment of opening night, and probably just like eating and drinking a bit too much, and just being at Gotham. Were we at Gotham? Is that the place called Gotham or
Yeah.
something? It's pretty cool. And just doing the red carpet and the interviews and feeling kind of buoyant and special. And it was just it was a lovely night.
Yeah. Petrina, for you, opening night, what do you remember about that?
Similarly, I remember that we were so relaxed about it, which is so great. I again was just speaking to a friend of mine yesterday and said, if this had happened to me 20 years ago, I would have been a mess. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad it happened to me at this stage in my life where my perspective was so much better, and my confidence and my where I am in myself as a person is the place that it is, that I'm a grown up. So I could deal with it all, because I would have been panicked otherwise. But yeah, it was so beautiful to have all the Newfoundlanders there, and the Plain people as well, Bev and Nick and Diane and Tom and everybody. But funny enough, what I remember about it is that party at Gotham, that they had brought a band up from Newfoundland. That's David Hines' favorite band, Shadiganok, and he didn't know they were going to be there, but we did. And we walk in and they start playing, and David is totally surprised. And they played, for me, music from home the whole night, and all the Newfoundland crowd got up in front of the stage and just had a party, and eventually coerced everybody else. Once the reviews came in and everybody was like, okay, it's going to be fine, the party moved to the front of the stage, and we had a good old dance party, basically, which was so fun.
Because I have been doing this for almost 30 years now, and I've been to many, many opening nights, and they've all been spectacular. But there was something about the opening of Come From Away that was just so special. It was just people filled with heart, and like the mixture of the real people that you play with the cast and the creatives, and you all danced the night away to this band. I mean, it was really, really, really special.
It certainly was. It didn't feel like none of us are celebrities per se. You know what I mean? There wasn't sort of that pressure, and we could just enjoy each other, and we all kind of kept like looking at each other like, this is really happening. It was like combination, I don't know, a wedding and a graduation and a prom, and it had that kind of delightful, just such great. It was just like It was like so fun. I can't even put it in words.
The best of all
crazy.
those kind of celebrations coming together for your opening.
Yeah.
You have the most loyalist fans. That's what I love about Come From Away. I mean, I know so many of them. I mean, I've been to your parties, and I mean, I've kissed the fish and drank the stuff. I've done everything. I've got my plaque somewhere on I've done it all. But I mean, let's talk about the fans. I mean, can you share with our Broadway World audience, what are your favorite fan moments of how this show has touched them and how it's changed their lives? I mean, you can think for a second, anybody can take this.
P, you want to go?
Oh, sorry. There's a little delay. I'm riding it, but I just want to let you know, it's not that I'm. I've met so many people from Newfoundland who come to the show specifically to see it, because they're so proud, and they've heard of it, and it's a Newfoundland Labrador story, so it's well known back home. And I've met some of the just salt of the earth older gentlemen who never have gone to a play before in their lives, who are crying at the end of this show saying, I've never been so proud to be a Newfoundlander. And that to me is the most incredible thing about this, as someone from the place, to be able to be one of the people who does that every night, who says, be proud of yourself. As a people, this is who we are. And I've met the Ralph, the Cocker Spaniel, who is one of the animals that Bonnie cared for and is a character in the show. Ralph was only a show dog for a couple of years, and when he retired, or was retired, he was adopted by Linda Beck Kane, who lives in New Jersey, who has come to the show several times and gave me a little photo album of pictures of Ralphie through the years. So I have all those resonances keep happening. I've met people who are recipients of the Lewisport Scholarship. One of the very first recipients, who's a teacher, an educator now, and a figure skating coach, and all these things. Like there's just so many people, because it's a real story, so many people who have been affected and continue to be affected by what happened at that time, and that we get to kind of hold the mirror up and show it back to them again for a little while in a joyous way is incredible.
Petrina is an amazing ambassador for the show and for Newfoundland, and if anybody, when we could do the stage door, if there was somebody there from Newfoundland, they got special time, which was great, and oftentimes they would call ahead or get a message to Petrina, and then they could come on stage, and that was such a wonderful experience to meet them. And then the other side of it too, Richard, of course, is people who we have a lot of docents from the museum who still come and who have become good friends, and people who have lost people who talk about coming to the show and finding a way to grieve. I mean, it's pretty powerful, and it sort of, I know I've had to learn a way to receive and hear some 9/11 stories, and then to be able to, send people on their way with a kind of a mental blessing, and just having to let it go, because there is that aspect to it as well. It's so entertaining, and I love being in the show. There's also those moments that connect us on that human level of grief and loss, and those moments have been very special too. Like our preview before we opened, we had all the first responders and firemen and people like that there, and knowing that they gave it kind of their blessing was perhaps the most touching thing that I think I can remember from the show, is knowing that people who had been affected by 9/11 feel that they're in good hands with our show, that they feel well represented, and it's a tribute to the people that they have lost. So that feels, yeah.
That is beautiful. My final question is, if you could sum up the best part of the experience of working on Come From Away, what is it for each of you? It's a big question.
I mean, I think it is for me what I said about meeting people from home, and having, again, just this friend of mine who came last night, not last night, but Sunday, to the show, and then we met up and had a coffee there yesterday. And he's like 36. He's a musician. The Fortunate Ones, if you're looking for a band, they're fantastic.
Oh, they're great.
He wept through the whole thing, and I was surprised to hear that from him, because he, you just don't think your mid-30s male friends are going to come and cry at your show, but he said he wept through the whole thing, just with pride and excitement, and at the beauty of the story and the humanity that we show. I think telling a story that reminds people that kindness is a way through is a gift.
Yeah. And I would say, sort of piggybacking on that, Richard, that playing Beulah, Beulah Davis, who's kind of a combination of Beulah Cooper and Diane Davis, if they watching this, hello friends, that playing these people has made me a better person. And I never thought about that as an actor, that playing somebody and finding out about this story and being Canadian as well, and just having all that kind of feeling is that I actually want to do better in the world. I want to be more present for my friends. I want to help strangers when I can. Sort of just seeing the need around and trying to be more present and being kind, not just in the sense of like kindness is being nice, but sometimes kindness is looking for justice in certain things. And it's sometimes hard and it has an edge to it. It's not always just having a smile on your face. It's about finding, the best for all of us to work together, the way that they work together in Gander, and kind of making that microcosm a desire for the way the world can work as a whole.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it remains one of the best feel-good musicals. It's a heartful musical. It's touching. It's funny. It's sad. People have so many different feelings through this stuff, but I think it's that whole human connection. And I think everybody sees themselves or say, I wish our world was like this. I wish, I could meet these kind of people or live with these kind of people or be around these kind of people. And David and Irene have done such a beautiful job with, I love the two of them. I like you, I got to know them during the Broadway run, but they're so sweet. They're so talented, and to watch
they're
their
the real
daughter
deal.
grow
They
up.
really are like that. And they deserve every, little bit of success they have, which is not little bit, but you know what I mean? Like every tiny bit they get, they deserve. So.
But I also love that the show is also back. There's a tour. It's in London. There's the Broadway production. I love that it's all opening up, but I know there's going to be an Australia, New Zealand one, I think, opening in 2023. When I was looking at the website yesterday, I'm so excited that this show is now going back around the world to spread the joy that it does.
Me too.
So once again, Come From Away, the hit musical, which is based on that remarkable true story, is back on Broadway, wowing audiences, also on tour and in London. Thank you, Petrina and Astrid. It's so great to catch up with the two of you again.
This has been lovely, Richard. Thank you.
And Petrina, we love your new addition. She's beautiful. What you have done. Your beautiful new child. Everybody, stay safe, and we'll see you at the theater, and go see Come From Away.
Welcome to the Rock if you come from away.
Come From Away, Broadway's Tony-winning Feel Good Again musical, is welcoming audiences back into the heart of the remarkable true story. In the middle of nowhere, one small town showed the world that the kindness of strangers could bring us closer. Come back together and Come From Away.